Welcome back to the CHG podcast, everybody.
What's
My
up,
name is
guys?
RJ. My name is RJ. That is David, and David's sick.
Yeah.
He's
So
he's sick again. Him and
yeah.
his wife are both sick, and she just got done being sick too. So good luck. They're having great luck.
Please excuse my coughing if I cough during this.
And if he just suddenly collapses, just
Yeah.
ignore him. We'll carry on without him. But yeah, this is the CHG podcast, a gaming podcast where we try to talk about the industry, gaming news, gaming whatever, in a funny and hopefully informative way.
But for the next several weeks, this is pretty much just a Last of Us HBO podcast.
Review podcast, yes.
Yeah.
We will be one of the many outlets that are going to be covering the Last of Us show. Last week we went over episode 1. We're now going over episode 2. That's what we'll be doing for the as the bulk of the podcast for the next several. However, no one really knows how long the season's supposed to go.
Hey,
Nobody knows if it's 6, 9, 10, 12 episodes. Nobody seems to know, which is funny.
As many they can give us.
We'll have to see. We're now 2 episodes in, and they are about to start chapter 4. I don't know why I fucking remember this shit, but they're starting chapter 4
because you played the game too many fucking times. That's why.
No, I'm just got that memory, man. That big brain, that big gamer brain. So last week we skipped like everything except for I think we had like a fun question about Last of Us. We skipped what we're playing. You don't have to tell us what you're playing. You can skip yours, but I need to get. I got some venting to do.
All right,
okay,
make it quick so we can get to the.
No, I will not make it quick. I got a lot of venting to do. Have you played Need for Speed Undercover?
Yeah,
from back in the day.
A little bit, yeah.
Way back in the day. So I did too. Way back, like 2011, a few years after it came out, and I got the platinum for it because like the first one to have trophies and shit. Got it. But this is not an event about the trophies. It's not an event about the fucking game. So I got the game again because it has a sweet ass steelbook case. So I bought the game, got the steelbook case. It's like one of my top 3 steelbook cases that I own. I was like, let me go replay the game again. I remember not liking it that much, but I forgot why. And then I started playing it, and I remembered why. So every area of this game sucks. And by area, I don't mean the physical locations. I mean just every aspect of this game. There's just incompetency everywhere you turn. I've never played a game. Like, I played bad games, yes, don't get me wrong. But, like, I think this is probably the most broken game I've ever played since Sonic 06. It is that up there. At least, especially, like, as for a racing game, per se, right?
Yeah, I remember not liking it. I don't remember why.
Oh, yeah. You had every right to. The critics apparently gave it, like, average reviews. Like, I looked at Metacritic, I wanted to be validated in my anger. But the critic reviews were, like, in the 60s, low 70s. And I was like, how the fuck? But then I look at the user reviews, particularly for the PS3 version, it's like a 4. And I was like, yes, the people knew. They know. And so here's the thing. I know Need for Speed has gotten a bad rap. Maybe not the last couple, but before that, there was like a good string where people just hated Need for Speed games. They just were not good. Like, of course, we're talking Payback. That's like the big one people hated because of like the cards. I know you liked it, but it had like that shitty. I guess I had that bad. I guess card system, which I guess elicits some pay to win shit. I don't know. I haven't played it.
No, there was no pay to win shit.
A lot of people didn't like it though. They didn't like the progression. They didn't like a lot of things about it. And then there was like the Need for Speed reboot. That was a bit of a letdown. Need for Speed The Run on the PS3 360 era. That was really bad because it was like, oh, you get to actually play as a driver because everyone wanted to do that. The point is, Need for Speed has been sucking well before Payback, well before the reboot. It's been shitty since 08. Everything that could go wrong with this game goes wrong. And it starts from the engine. I don't know what engine they're using. I don't know. But whatever engine they're using, it was not meant for racing games. And so I was telling another buddy of mine, Gemini, Saturday about it. And I said, I can now finally relate to all you Madden guys who have been bitching about the Frostbite engine, which of course was made for Battlefield. And they translated that into a football game well, American football game. Sorry, you overseas people. And I was like, this is probably the closest I'm going to get to this, because the developers were Black Box, and they were making the skate games around this time frame. And I was like, I think they took a skateboarding engine and tried to throw this into a racing car game,
Can't do
and
any
it just
sick kick flips with your Mustang.
here's the thing, you can, because the physics are all over the fucking place. You can hit a car and I've seen cars fly. I've just seen them hit them fast enough and they will fly. They will just fly off their wheels, just in the air. The game, the system, I don't know if this is more of the consoles or if it's the game itself. It's probably both, I'd imagine. But like the game can't handle how fast any car goes. It can't handle it because the game is constantly loading up parts of the map in front of you as you're racing. Sometimes it doesn't load up, and the race will actually just pause you. You'll just pause, and you'll actually like see yourself going into like, it's kind of like, you see in other games like when like nothing's rendering and you're kind of in the void. You'll enter that, but the game will stop, and you'll be paused for like a good few seconds, and then everything loads in, and like the screen shakes, and like your car shakes, and sometimes if there was traffic, they just like pop in, they just like drop in and shit. It's just like how like how like I don't understand. And then like of course the obvious ones are there, like the rubber banding is out of control. It is out of control. Here's how out of fucking control it is. I booted the game for the first time, and I'm going to the pause menu, just seeing the options and shit, just getting a feel for shit. And there's a secret code section. I was like, oh shit, this game's that old. Yeah, it actually you can actually put in codes. Like, it's that fucking old. And I was like, let's see what I didn't know what they were. So I was like, let's go look online and see what kind of codes there are. And some of them are for like, get a little bit of money to start off with. So I did those, just get a little bit of a leg up. And a lot of them were unlocking all these special cars. Now, I didn't know what most of them were because I'm not that big of a car guy, but I did know one of them, and it was like the Koenigsegg CCX or whatever, one of those old, hypercars from Europe. You can unlock that. There's a code for it, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, let's do that!" So I put the code in, I unlock it, and honestly, that car is just, the stats are crazy and way better than these, chump cars from the start of the game.
Mm.
They were catching up to me in the races. You got a fucking like a Chevy Chevelle, which is like a tier 3 car that goes up to tier 1, catching up to me in a circuit race. That's not how that's supposed to go.
Yeah,
that is not how that's supposed to go. Like, I'm supposed to be like 45 seconds off these guys, and like I might crash once, and you'll see them catch up to me, and I'm like, what's going on here? So the AI is out of control. The traffic AI is so bad that like the other cars, your racing cars, they'll hit the traffic. They will hit traffic. Usually AI racing doesn't hit traffic because that's not programmed to do that unless you purposely get them to do it. But like they'll go so fast too. The game can't even handle how fast the opponents are going. And I literally watched AI just run into traffic because the traffic is all over the fucking place. Sometimes there's no traffic. Sometimes there is traffic. Sometimes the traffic, they're doing Tokyo drifts to change lanes on the highway. It's not just like a how a normal car would just go. Like, they don't even look like they're turning, right? It's just changing lanes. They will take a 90-degree turn and then go into the other lane. Out of nowhere, you'll run into that shit and you'll just be like, gotta restart the race now. And not only that, the field of view, no matter what kind of field of view you have on your car, if you're going over like a small little hill, you literally cannot see what's coming up in front of you. So you'll just go up a little, you'll be racing really fast, especially if you're going really fast. You'll go up a hill, and then like the tiniest of hills. But if you cannot see you cannot see anything with the way the camera has the car. And boop, here comes the traffic card coming right for you. Bam, there you go. Just, you know how many times that has fucking happened to me? Because I cannot see, literally cannot see in front of me. And I run into a car, like an oncoming traffic car. It's just, how do you program? Like, so it's just like the incompetence is just out of control. Like, I'm just like, what the fuck happened with this game? And so, but I was like, I still ended up beating it because it wasn't like, to beat it is not that bad. And so I just went ahead and beat it again, did all this shit, dominated all the events. And then there was 2 DLCs. Like, the competence goes to the DLC. There was a collector's edition upgrade that was released afterwards that I had downloaded years ago that was still on my download list. So I go to download again. It's supposed to come with 12 extra events, like some extra cars and shit. And if you download it, you go to the pause menu, you go to the map, go to look for like the events, and the new total of events you could do gets registered at like it goes up to 199 from 183 or 187. So you're like, okay, cool, 12 extra events. Let's go and find them. They're nowhere on the map. And I looked into this. I was like, am I missing something? Is it in some secret menu that I don't know about? Like, do I gotta fucking sacrifice an animal to bring them up? Like, what do I gotta do? Turns out they just literally were not coded into the game.
So this is
And they never,
DLC that
and
people paid for.
this whole, I don't know if this was remember so long ago, and
That's true.
on your download list it doesn't tell you how much it might have cost. I could probably find my transactions history and try to find it, but I don't know if it cost anything or not. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I don't fucking know. But if it did, yes. And they never patched it. They never fixed it. Not once. There's actually no patches for this game at all. Because you can check the history. You can like check for updates. None. I'm like, if any game needed updates, it is this one.
Wow.
So yeah, there's that. And then the other DLC challenge is like called a challenge series, which is like that actually fucking works. They actually got that into the game, but the AI difficulty on the drivers it's just so fucking all over the place that like the bronze level challenges are harder than the gold level challenges. And I'm like, something's off with that. And like they'll have you driving a muscle car, which for as great as some people might like them, for like driving, everyone knows like they slide like a fucking playground. And so they're not the easiest to drive in. But they want you to drive like the most pro GT3 driver ever made on a fucking muscle car because the AI doesn't care. They're just flying. I'm like, how? There are other muscle cars in this race and they're not sliding everywhere. But yet, if you even as much as tickle my car, I'm like spinning out the 1080. So I'm just like, so that was like, I did it. I finished it, but it was beyond frustrating. Like that was harder than the main game. Like any challenge in the main game, that shit was harder. Only because like it's arbitrary. It's not even out of skill. It's just from these stupid mechanics built into the game because they didn't know how to make it. I was like, they took the wrong developer to try to make a Need for Speed game. I fucking hate this game. I will never play this game again. I'm upset that I decided to do this to myself. But it has a sweet ass steelbook. That's its only redeeming quality. All right, I'm done ranting.
All right, well,
that was the RJ rant power hour.
So I'll talk a little bit about what I was doing then.
Go ahead. I need to cool
off. Yeah, about all that. I have been playing. So unlike RJ, I took my sick time this weekend to play a masterpiece, and I've been playing New Vegas again. I was like, you know what? Because I loaded up 4 to play 4. I got to the start screen and was like, why play 4 when I could play a much better game and play New Vegas? So I already had New Vegas downloaded, so I just popped that in, and I've been playing. And I'm doing a play run that I've never done before because I have a really hard time playing as a bad guy in any game. Like I'll go out and be like, I'm gonna be the bad guy, and I just end up being a good guy. I can't make those decisions. But I set my mind to it. I was like, I'm gonna be, not only am I gonna be a bad guy, I'm gonna be a fucking psycho. So like from the get go, I murdered like Good Springs. Just like basically my mindset is do the missions to get XP and then murder everyone. So I've been it worked for a little bit until NCR fucking I was like level 5 and NCR was sending like rangers after me. So I was like, oh shit, okay, I gotta temper shit back a little bit. So I got good with NCR from doing some NCR missions. So they stopped sending rangers after me because those guys are bitches in the early game. But I did do the Legion run. So I'm doing all that, and I'm still like, I would like go into an NCR camp and like do all their missions, and then at night I would like sneak into their tents with like a silencer and just like kill everybody in their sleep. uh, so yeah, it's been fun. Doing that again. Fucking Veronica is just OP as shit. Like if Veronica as a follower, which she's the Brotherhood of Steel follower, she has a power fist, or if you find her a fucking super sledge, ridiculous. And you give her power armor, and then you get Rex, which is the dog, and you get him an upgraded brain, and like, sorry, I have to remove the cat from the table. I basically don't have to do anything. Like I can just stand there and they'll just take out pretty much anyone. But yeah, so that's been fun. Yeah, so that's what I've been playing. I've been playing a great game and having loads of fun with it. About to start the DLC that actually is there, coded and everything. It's pretty great.
Let me say that I'm not playing this anymore. I think I wrapped it up early last week.
No.
Like early last week. I've been playing F1 2014 the last few days. Which is always, I mean, the F1 fans apparently hate this game. But I mean, after the shit I've been through, I mean, everything's better. I will say though, you put in Fallout New Vegas, Persona 3 Portable came out, Persona 4 Golden came out, but no, you want to go and replay New Vegas for the 10th time.
Yeah. It was great.
I will never.
It was great.
You want to talk about not being able to do things. I can't. I mean, I used to as a kid, but that's because I was a kid. I had limited games. But like ever since I became like an adult, I can't understand how people will replay a game as many times as you. And you're not alone, obviously. People who play Fallout and Elder Scrolls, like y'all play that game times over, and I can't understand.
And part of it though, part of it is that I never did the Legion run, like ever. So that's pretty much like half of a new game.
Is it that much different?
Yeah. Like there's a whole bunch of Legion specific missions that you do. So I don't know. I enjoyed it.
All right. Well, I mean, if it has that, but it's just, I don't know. For me, it's not worth a whole new gameplay because a lot of stuff you will be the same. And I mean, granted, if I was a kid, I probably would, because I played like the Ratchet and Clanks as a kid. I don't even know how many times over, and like a lot of games. I used to actually like try to beat my games, so then I would delete all the save files and replay them all again. But because I had way less games to do that. Yeah. But now it's just like I'm only gonna replay something again if it has like a.
You have tons of games you still have yet to play, like good games that you fucking still
and technically you do too. Technically you do too with Xbox Game Pass. So I don't want to hear it. Okay, you do too. You're gonna go and replay New Vegas when the other personas came out, and you want to play New Vegas again.
Okay.
All right. At least I'm not I guess I technically did replay Need for Speed Undercover, but I didn't have a save file, so it doesn't count.
Well, anyway, guys, thank you for joining us for RJ's I don't know, bitch corner.
Dude, it's just it's not that often. Okay, here's the thing. I may play bad games often, okay? But it is rare when I will play unfinished games. That's rare, okay? So you can't say I don't play unfinished games, which is another reason why I don't play most games on day one, because they're usually not finished, especially with last year's games that we got. So much bullshit that was not a fucking made game. So I don't get caught in that trap. That I know you've been caught in that trap more times than I have about playing a game that may not be what it should have been on day one.
Yeah.
Anyway, watch me accidentally forget it and keep it in. Anyways, so we're gonna get right into that second episode of Last of Us. So you watched it this morning. You watched it today. Yeah. I watched it yesterday. And it was another good one. And I'm happy. So last time I didn't watch like the 5-minute behind the scenes thing at the end of the episodes, but this time I did because I wanted to like see, because you had said, explain some stuff, talk about some things. So I was like, okay, let's see what they talk about. Because I actually wanted to get some answers.
Because there's some changes in this.
There are some noticeable
Yeah,
changes in this
yeah.
one, big
Lore
noticeable ones, but
changes,
the way they
lore
explain
changes.
it, yes, they changed a little bit of the lore, but I was so impressed with with what was changed. It made so much
Yeah,
sense. It's like they're continuing to change things or maybe remix some scenes, and it still makes
yeah.
sense within the
The
story, within
world
this
and everything.
TV version of the story and the world and everything that they're doing with the show. Um, the first thing I want to notice is that it was a bit weird how the hotel scene happened so early
Yeah.
with Ellie. That doesn't have like Tess isn't even in that
No,
in the game, so I thought that was a bit interesting. Um, I guess it works, but I did find that a bit odd. And I will say it was so much cringier seeing her do it in the show than it is in the game.
for what?
Doing that whole little when Ellie rings the bell
Oh,
and like says like, "Oh,
I
so
don't know.
physically
I
bad."
didn't
So
think it was
because
that bad. Like it was just a kid being a
I
kid
cringed,
to me.
which is no, I get it. But since I also know she's not a kid, I don't know. It's just because I'm still not buying her as Ellie. I can't. I'm 2 episodes in so far, and I'm still not down with it. Um, Yeah, I think that's what most. I think I've heard of. If anything, going to criticize is it sucks. I don't want to be mean to her, right? She's only 19, right? In real life, she's only 19. She's still very young, and I don't want to be mean to her, right? And this isn't really a slight on her. I don't fucking know her, but it's just I can't buy her as Ellie. That's just. I mean, as far as just how she looks and yes, the attitude and the spirit and the personality is there, but it does not match the aesthetic and it's throwing me off. And so I think that added to the cringe for me on that little scene. And also in the game, you don't have to watch her do it. You can just listen to it while you're running around the hotel, trying to find some shit. So that also helps. You don't have to watch her be cringy. You can just hear it, and that helps. But in the show, you have to watch it, and it's just like, oh man. But anyways, I mean, how do you feel? How are you feeling about Bella being Ellie? Are you buying it, or are you
I'll
indifferent?
admit that. Like, I don't know if it's me, if I can't separate how connected I am to Ellie throughout the whole game, like, and that's like the feeling that I have towards that version of her. I'll say that I'm not I don't feel connected to the TV version yet. Could that change throughout the season? Yeah. But I will say there is something missing. I just don't know if that's because again, I've already been through the whole game with her. And I haven't with this version of Ellie. So that I don't know. I will say that yeah, it's not perfect. It is something that I'm like that I have to tell myself you'll have to get used to it. It's not like with Joel. Joel to me is as close to a one for one as I think you can get in Hollywood. Like the actor has done a very good job with Joel. Um, and I feel that connection to him that I do with the video game Joel, but Ellie not so much. So I'm okay with it, and I'm looking, forward to, getting to know her more and stuff like that moving forward. And I also think when Joel and her start to connect more, I think that will help with that Ellie feeling when she actually starts to get connected with Joel. But yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to see because like the thing about Ellie was that like even before they got connected in the game, Ellie was just a likable little teenager,
Yeah.
right? Like even though you didn't care about her with yet, as far as like what she was about and her motives and shit like that. It was just fun to hear her be a bratty ass 14-year-old girl, especially in conjunction with Joel, right? Because you could just tell Joel the last thing he wanted to do was talk to this girl, but now he has to, and it's hilarious. You like Ellie, but so far in the show, they're trying to do it, and
She's a little
I'm just
more
like
bratty
she's
in the show than she is endearing. And I think that's maybe
yeah,
part of the problem.
it's not coming off as endearing, and maybe it's because it's a real person, in the game. Maybe you can let go of that, and it's just, it could be just be that translation just doesn't go as well. Because like yeah, everyone else has been fine. I mean, everyone was happy to see Joel. Pedro looks the
Yeah.
part. He does his best to do the southern accent, the part, and it comes off well. He's doing great. The Tess's character was badass as hell. She may not look as much 1-to-1, but as far as like portraying that character,
And
from
the
it's like
and the
hell
way
yeah,
she
like
goes out in this one, I
so
think
good.
is honestly, I think is better than the game.
At first, I was like, it's a bit weird. Like I was surprised they didn't try to attack her. Like the clickers try to just go and attack her. I thought that was a bit weird. I was like, is that normal? Do they normally do that? Like they just come up to you also, I guess, seductively
Yeah, like
for a clicker or for a runner, like seductively as far as much of a runner can, and then just mouth to mouth the parasite to you. Like that was a bit weird. But as far as how she went down, yes, because and also we'll get to that, but that's like one of those scenes that was redone that makes
yeah.
sense, right? But I wanted to say, yeah, like all the other characters have been great so far. Like even though we got like a tiny bit of time with Robert, that he was still great. You know, the small time we had with him, Marlene, so far great. And I imagine with this show, we'll probably have cut scenes of her, you know, in the camp she's been staying in for I think I forget where, um, the main one where everything eventually goes down. I'm sure we'll see shit go down with them. I'd imagine in the show. So I'm sure we'll see more of her before the end of the show. But she was great. So it's really just been Ellie so far, just been Bella, and which sucks because it brings up the fact that if they do season 2 and if they time travel or if we ever get to the point where the second game starts, well, isn't she the exact same age as Bella is now in real life? She's
Yeah.
19 in the second game. Bella's 19 already, and so if they try to if we were able to if what we have right now is Bella Ramsey trying to be a 14-year-old as a 19-year-old, and this is what it looks like, she's not going to look anywhere near as convincing being adult Ellie. You know, if we get that
Yeah,
far
but I
with
think
the show.
that's just Hollywood in general. Like most of the time, like teenagers are played by mid 20, late
No,
20
no,
year
that's
olds.
fine,
So
but that's
they'll
not what
just
I'm getting.
age
I'm
her
getting
up
it.
that way.
But we're just gonna have it's just gonna be weird because now that we have this time gap in the games and she does look visibly different from the second game, well, it's they can't make her look older.
Yeah.
So I
It'll
mean,
be interesting
I'm
what
just
they
worried.
choose to do.
I just don't know what's gonna happen. Another thing that's interesting is that since we had the hotel scene now already, like they went through the same hotel that Ellie and Joel went through in the game. Well, that whole hotel was very pivotal for the plot. You know, there's the part where they were separated from the elevator when it crashed, and then that's when Joel's getting like almost drowns by that dude, and then Ellie shoots the guy, and she shoots someone for the first time. That all happens in that hotel. And now that we've already had the hotel, I'm wondering, are they going to be in another hotel? You know, I mean, they could, but I'm just saying, like, I'm just wondering, what are they going to do now? You know, since they've already been in that same hotel where they did the little ding ding scene, I'm just curious what they're going to do because that was a pivotal part in the plot
Yeah.
for them. So I mean, they could. I mean, and I wouldn't be mad if they just like the hotel because it's not like there's only one hotel in this whole world. There's multiple hotels, but it just makes me think. That's all because they did fast forward a scene from the game much earlier into the show.
Yeah,
So
and
that's something to keep in
so I
mind.
mean, from the looks of it, because we got the preview, it looks like they're going this next episode they'll get to Bill and Frank. So that'll speed up things quite a bit. So they might.
Well, it depends on how much goes on because I mean that whole Banks Bill's town is one entire chapter of the game.
Yeah.
It's not broken up. It's one whole chapter. So I don't know. It could be one episode. It could be an episode and a half as far as like runtime goes.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. I mean,
But
I'm what they've shown me in the first 2 episodes, I'm confident in whatever decisions that they make, like that they can make it make sense. Because all of the changes that they made, it made perfect sense within the world that they're creating. And it's all still cool. So I'm willing to let them continue to tweak things as they go.
and let's talk about those
Yeah.
changes. So the first one I want to get out is that the fungus can spread through the ground through communication with the fungus, which apparently is a real thing. It was in the if you watch the behind the scenes thing at the end of the episode, one of the producers or whoever he was saying that in real life fungus can actually connect across crazy distances from each other if it is still connected, like the fungus itself is connected underground or through other means. And in this world, that's how that's how these infected can communicate with each other. Now in the show, in the game, there was no communication per se. Only like if it was a group of them in an area and you made a noise, they would all hear it. But like one would not affect others in a whole nother area of the game. But in the show, it can.
Yeah. Like you can
And they
step on
did
a
that
vine
as a
and then all of a sudden a
yeah. If you
horde.
stepped on a fungus vine and it wasn't like dead, because I guess these some of them can go bone dry, which that was a new thing too. Them kind of going dry. If you interact with one that's still alive, it can trace away to somewhere else, and they'll know where it is, and they'll come for you, like telepathically or whatever. It is crazy, but they did that as a retcon for the spores. And I was wondering when the spores were going to come up, because I was wondering if they were ever going to like grab their gas masks and things like that. And we haven't had that so far. And I don't think we're going to get that. Maybe once or something. But it doesn't look like we might get that often, because it was also explained that they were saying like, well, in the game, that makes perfect sense to have a confined area of a hazardous material. Like for game logic, that's great. And we accept that, right? There's no one complained about it. But in real life, spores would just kind of dissipate throughout. They would not stay confined in one area.
Wind would take
and
them.
I was like, that makes so much sense. Yeah, it would just spread out to maybe even to the point where they're not even dangerous anymore, right? Where like it's not like hazardous to breathe because it's been so spread out because of wind or natural things happening in the world that like yeah, it might be in the air, but like it's not hazardous because it's so minute that doesn't matter. And I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like they're like breaking down game logic and replacing it with real logic, but it makes sense. And because I was wondering about that, because they changed up a scene with all the infected kind of moving around together, at the same time and interact with each other almost, and the characters mention it that they interact with each other like in different ways, and I was like, what? And so I wanted to know if they were going to explain that, and they did. And I was like, okay, that's why, because they're removing spores more or less for this fungus that actually can communicate through vast distances with like I guess its own kind of like neuron or maybe nervous system network or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, motherfuckers did it again. They did it again with their explanations. And I was just like, all right, I'm down. You all explained that. How did you feel about that?
Well, it took me a little bit, maybe even until the explanation, to remember that like that wasn't a thing, like that maybe they mentioned in the games. Because again, I haven't played it as much, but no, I mean it makes sense. It allows for more tension than even before, because now you don't have to just worry if there's infected around. You have to worry about if there are any roots around. Like you have to be careful where you step in. And so like I don't know if they'll be that worried about it for the rest of the show, because it would be kind of tedious to be mentioning it all the time and then to be, tiptoeing around all the time. But in the essence of the world, it makes it a lot more like tense. So, I mean, I like it. I like that they can, track it back to an actual, real life thing. They mentioned in the after program, like Neil Druckmann has been in each one of these like after show things, and so he looks extremely heavily involved.
I think I said that in the lesson one, that he was involved from the get-go.
Yeah, so he approves it. So I'm good with it. Like it works for it. It was really cool to see the thousands of infected like it was like a wave almost. Like it would like come
Yeah.
as a wave, and it was creepy. Like if I saw that, I'd be like, fuck, never mind. I don't care if the whole world can be saved. Fuck this shit. Like that's
Which
fucking
actually is funny because
creepy.
and now it kind of takes aim from Days Gone, because I remember that was Days Gone big thing.
Yeah.
Like it was actually able to get a whole bunch of zombies swarmed in one area at one time on the screen. And now, but Last of Us never really has that. It's more, separated, more tense, smaller, and excursions. But oh yeah, that was interesting. That was interesting. And it plays more into the zombie trope. Obviously, like most zombie shows or movies, there's like scenes. There's always usually a bunch of them. They usually travel in many
Yeah.
packs, not like the few at a time that the game has.
Yeah.
So it plays more well to the general audience too, because they like to see all of those thousands or hundreds of zombies at one time. So it works. Like the general audience will be happy, and the explanation will be enough for the gamers to be like, okay, yeah, I'll give it a pass. Um, Speaking of changes, one change that I did notice that I don't know, I don't want to say it's bad because nothing's really been bad, but like just something that's not as well explained was that we never see Tess get bit.
Mm.
We have to just assume Tess gets bit. Now in the game, yes, technically you could miss it. You could easily miss her getting bit in the game, but there is a spot where most people assume this is where she was bit. So after you get separated from Tess and Ellie in the museum, which they played that same scene, but they did get separated. They stayed together. But anyways, in the museum where you're separated in the game, and you finally reunite with them, Tess is like fending off a clicker or something, right? People assume it's in that spot where she must have got bit, because that's the only time you see her interact with one.
Mm.
And it made sense because he was the infected was leaning on her, so she most likely was bit in that excursion or that little tussle that she had, and then it goes off from there. But in the show, I was looking for it too. I was going to see, are they going to like hint at it, kind of, maybe it was like a scene like you have to kind of infer too. But I was like, there was nothing. There was no spot where it would make sense where she was bit on the neck by one of them in the scenes that we saw her in the museum. So I was like, oh, that was a bit of a letdown, because I was like looking for it and it was just not there. You just had to assume she was bit. I don't know if you remember that, if you caught that,
Yeah,
but that was probably like, I guess, the only letdown that I
I
had.
don't know if I paid enough attention in the game to like notice. Like I think I remember the scene of her like being attacked by the clicker. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think it still works for the show in the fact that one, she does go off by herself with a clicker in tow. So like it's it's harrowing.
I mean, yeah, you gotta assume, yeah, something's just gonna go
Yeah,
down.
and then just her whole and this is props to the fucking actress. Her whole body language and demeanor changes like in a slight way, but a way enough that you know something's wrong. Like
Mm-hmm.
something's different about her demeanor, like the way that she's like hey, we got to get to the place like right now. Um like I feel like if I hadn't already known the story and what was going to happen, if I was just a first time viewer, I think I would be like, oh, okay, I think she got bit. Like I think I would have an idea
Mm-hmm.
that she got bit. So I think it still works.
I'm not mad. I'm not trying to be old angry gamer over here. I'm not mad. It was just a bit let down, because
Yeah.
I was specifically looking for it.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I played the game, I like the first time playing the game, I didn't notice it either. And I was like, she got bit? When the fuck did she get bit? And then through other playthroughs, I'll be looking out. I was like looking for like, where the fuck would she have been bit? And then I found the spot. I was like, that's probably where she got bit. So I was just looking to see if they would have done something, and they didn't. But it's just a minor mishap. I'm not mad about it. But what you brought up though is a good point. So that whole bit when they finally get to the Capitol building, and Tess's demeanor noticeably starts changing. I mean, it started changing when they got out of the museum a bit,
Yeah.
but it definitely was in overdrive at the Capitol building, which is from the game. In the game, her dialogue is more desperate. You know, she's like, no, no, no. Like in the game, she's the one that's freaking out when everyone's dead. And she's like, no, no, no. Like there has to be someone. Like there has to be something. Like she's desperate, right? And you're trying to figure out like what's going on. And you find out because she's bit, and this is it for her. Now the lines weren't the same, and I thought some of them would have been at least somewhat the same. But her demeanor and her action and body language in some spots was fucking like 1-to-1 from the game. The way Tess acts in the game, and I was like, oh, round of applause. So like, even if the words weren't there all the way, I was like, she got Tess down with that last scene in the Capitol building.
Yeah.
Everything was perfect. The way she acted and just her composure and her demeanor, everything. I was happy. I was very happy. And then also leads into another change. So in the game, for those who know, when they get to the Capitol building and everyone's dead, you know, they got to figure what the fuck to do. Out of nowhere, more guards show up, and in the game, you're kind of like, oh, okay. You kind of just let it go. You're like, you know, okay, guards show up. You've been fighting guards up until this point anyway, so I guess it makes sense that they might find you. But if you think about it, they really would have no idea how to find you if you really thought about it. You know, like how would they have known you were going to the Capitol building?
Well, I
Right?
think in the game, the Fireflies are killed by Fedra, not by themselves being in, you know, having a
True.
showdown because some are infected. So I think that's
But
more
for
like they tracked the Fireflies to the, you know, I don't think necessarily in the game that they were there for you. They were there for
no,
the
no,
Fireflies.
you're right. They were killed, I think, by the Fedra or by somebody. Um, we have to assume Fedra because they never explain anything with bite marks or anything. But anyways, the point is that as far as like just this out of nowhere, this new set of
a new
troopers showing
group,
up,
whatever. Yeah,
it's like because like even if they were killed by these other Fedra, which obviously they were because you find some later on in the hallways, they don't know you show up. So how would they
why are
know
they
know
there?
to
Yeah,
how would they have known to get back up to come get you, right? So, anyways, the point is, it doesn't make sense for these new Hydra guys or Fedra guys to show up
Hydra.
and take you guys out in the Capitol building.
Yeah.
But in the show, it goes back to that fungus thing, which is why they explained it earlier that the fungus can travel because Joel shoots one of them that's like still not dead, and then it's like still kind of freshly dead body. The parasite is able to communicate with all these other zombies that are a little off in the
That the
distance, and
horde
then
we
they
saw
like
earlier.
the horde, yeah, the same horde that we saw earlier in the episode. They're like, uh-oh, like we gotta go. It's battle time, and then they just come running, and I was like, that makes way more sense for them to like, you know, for the shit to go down the way it does in the Capitol building than Fedra just showing up.
Yeah.
And you still get the same scene with Tess because she still figures out a way to sacrifice herself,
yeah.
or at least buy time for Joel and Ellie. And so I was like, I'm down. I was like, this did not happen in the game, but it makes so much sense that I don't give a fuck. It makes so much perfect sense that I was like, I'm good. Round of applause. Round of applause. How did you feel about that scene? Like the whole thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm right with you. I think it makes more sense how they get pushed out of the Capitol building, how everything goes down. Obviously, the scene with Tess is great. She gets the emotions right. Joel's whole like, I don't remember the scene in the video game with Joel like trying to leave or like, you know, like trying to figure out if he's going to leave or not because you're attacked by the Fedra agents. I'm not sure how that goes down.
It happens very similarly.
It does. Because like I
very similarly.
What I'll say is just like that whole like him coming to terms with like he's gotta go, like it is really like was gut wrenching. Like it was really emotionally well played.
Yes. Yes.
So I very much liked it. I will say the whole like I thought the whole like infected coming up to Tess and like making out with her.
Yeah, that was so weird.
It was a little weird. I'm not gonna lie. I felt that I felt if she would have just been able to like really what I thought she was gonna do when she couldn't get it to light, I thought she was just gonna grab one of those grenades and just like pop it. Like, I think honestly that would have been badass. Just like her pick up one,
just go Rambo style.
just like just like pop it, like, and then she starts to like get like eaten, and she just fucking lets it go, and just, like, that's how I thought it was gonna go down. I that's how I kind of wish that it would have gone down. Other than that, like, and it wasn't like a mood killer or anything. It was still like one fucking gross as shit. Like the fucking tendrils coming out and like going into her mouth and shit. Like, ugh. Like, gross. So it works in that way. And then when she does finally get it, like, it was like, oh, thank God, like she got it.
I will say, actually, I was like, is she gonna like this? Like, I was really, I mean, obviously she's going to, but they had me for a second because like I thought she like given up because she looked so terrified, like in that moment.
Yeah,
like, yeah, she's a badass, but like
eyes,
she finally had, like, you finally saw like that like moment of like fear and like, I would say innocence, but like just where like she's actually now being scared because she's usually probably like never scared or never shows it.
Yeah.
But like she broke in that moment, and I thought I was like, is she gonna like this fucking thing? Like she had me, she had me for a minute there. But I will say about the scene. So some things were, the only thing that was kind of 1-to-1 was like so when Ellie goes, like, holy shit, she's infected, 1-to-1. And then Ellie and Joel and Tess are kind of staring at each other, and then like Tess tries to say something, but Joel cuts her off, 1-to-1 from the game. And then when Joel says, show me, literally from the game. And then even almost the way she does it, she shows the neck is almost the exact same way too.
And isn't the line the same? Like we had to run out of luck someday.
Our luck runs out sooner or later. It might have been slightly, but mostly yes, mostly right. But as far as like the realization, so in the game, he doesn't grab Ellie, but he goes like, all right, he says like, Ellie, like, we're leaving, and Ellie does protest in the game. She's like, what? No, we can't fucking leave her. And he's like, we're leaving, and then he just runs off, and she just follows him. But in the show, obviously, she's like, bitch, you're coming with me. She's like, let me go.
I'll get her. Like, she like was like sliding on the oil, like.
Mm-hmm.
She really does.
So none of that. That did not happen. Because there was everyone was kind of on the same page, even though Ellie didn't like it. You could tell like they were all on the same page, in the show, in the game.
Yeah.
So that was different, but some of the lines and the demeanor and some of that was literally the same. But like, yeah, the realization of Joel realizing like, this is it. Like, all right, but like, and also like there were no goodbyes either in the game. There was no like, okay, well, I miss you, and none of that. So I was like, oh, just as cold as the game was.
Yeah, they don't have fucking time. They have like a minute.
Yeah. The last thing we'll discuss is the clickers. You told me earlier, you're like, this shit is literal nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems to be you were impressed with them.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think they said it. They said it right in the after thing. The guys were talking about it, that their goal was for gamers to be like, "Yup, that's fucking it."
That's it.
And they got it. Like, I was just like, "Yep, that's the whole like 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 they got it so well." Sorry, my wife is bringing the charger because my laptop's dying. But yeah, no, it was they used real cosmetics, which made it look fucking perfect. Scary as shit. The noises, like when you hear it, just that little, the first just little click screech,
like,
way off in the distance,
whatever.
Like, it wasn't even close, and you're just like, oh fuck, like, it's that feeling from the games when you hear the clicks and you're like, fuck.
Yeah, you're just like, no.
Like I really didn't need this right now. And
like, I don't got any shiz, man.
Yeah. So like, I think it's perfect. Like that. I don't think they could have done the clickers any better. And apparently the after things are a must watch for anyone who hasn't watched them. They're a must watch because they were talking that the actors that they got for the clickers apparently were like had played the games. So
fans of the game.
Game, so they knew like how to move and shit. And again, fucking perfect. So that's what I think. Fucking perfect.
What so first of all, the after things, I don't know what they're called exactly, but you should watch them. They're only like 5 minutes. They're not even, these aren't like, half-hour featurettes on like the bonus features of a DVD. Like these are just, they're really quick.
Yeah.
Like 5 minutes max. You could starting some coke? Yeah. Jeez. All I heard was
fucking ready.
And now you're rubbing your nose.
No,
but yes. So you should watch them. Definitely watch them. I didn't watch the first one, but I'm going to watch them from now on because it'll actually definitely like fill in the blanks. If you had questions about stuff, they usually address some of the things because I feel like they knew that we would have questions about certain things, right? And they're like, let's address that in this behind the scenes thing or whatever. So anyways, what impressed me most with the clickers was the sound and the movement.
Yeah.
I think it was somewhat easy. I think it's a bit easier to get like just that nice cosmetic headpiece, whatever they're wearing, I'm not saying it's hard. It is easy, but I think in relative terms, it would be easier just to create something rather than get the nuance of having the actors move and twitch the correct way. Yeah. They twitched, or they made them look like they were twitching so like erratically. It literally looked like it was the game. Because, like, obviously in the game, you can have those very sharp, like, almost unhumanly sharp twitches and stuff because it's a game. They moved so sharply with their twitches. I was, holy crap. This is the game. These are literally from the game. I could not believe how well. I mean, I'm sure it's a mix of the actor's talent and probably maybe a couple little extra things behind the scenes, afterwards.
I'd be interested in knowing if they use any like camera tricks.
But I'm sure it's a combination of both. But kudos to everybody on getting that twitching and that movement just down, just perfectly down. And then obviously for the sound is so good. I would not be surprised if they
pulled the audio,
just pulled the audio from the game and just added it in certain sections because it's too good. It's too good. It is perfect, and the bits that they have them in there are just like okay, like in that bit where Joel's like reloading his gun. And you just had a feeling like that click is probably right next to him. That click is probably right next to him. And then when he like flashed it, I almost was like, "No, you idiot! Don't!" I was like, "Oh wait, they're blind." But like I was so tense. I was like, "Why would you do that?" Because obviously in any other situation that'd be terrible. But like for them, it doesn't matter because they're blind. But it was right there, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
So something I wanted to point out. I don't know if they did this on purpose, but when they're running away from the clicker, I'm just like, that's exactly what you do in the game. When you just run from clicker, you're like, oh god, oh god, oh god. Like,
yeah,
that's the game there. I don't know if they did it on purpose. If they did, fucking brilliant. If they didn't, awesome happenstance. Because like I was just like, yeah, I've done that in the game. Like in that section, I just ran in circles. Like
that's all you can do. That's what we did when we played it on the grounding mode. But you don't even got to be on grounding mode to have to do that. Because if you're playing on anything that isn't easy mode, where you have a plethora of ammo at your disposal by that point, you are just going to be running around hoping to grab a brick or a bottle and throwing it at them. That's all you really have with the clickers at that point. So yeah, they definitely brought in the tension, and but they also brought in a good point. The good idea of this, like as far as like with them actually fighting, there's not a whole lot of them, that's obviously from the game because you never fight too many at one time.
Nah, like 10,
like maybe 4 at the most.
There's some sections you fight like a large field of them.
Well, that's true, but you obviously the game though focuses on
Yeah.
stealth a lot, so you're supposed to kind of stealth take them out. But as far as like actually actively worrying about them running
Yeah.
at you, it's
Little
probably
sections at a time.
4, 5, 6, at the most, which that's great. They're not putting them up against like
They're not just
ridiculous odds.
Ramboing like down a whole bunch of zombies. Like
Yeah, like, and even though Tess and Joel come out of the fight in the museum, not like freaking out too hard afterwards, you could still tell though, like they were definitely in a fight. Like they may not have been like,
I mean, Tess
like
fucking
losing it.
dies from it, and
Well, yes,
Joel and Ellie came real damn close.
real close. I mean, obviously Ellie reacts appropriately, but like even though those two don't lose it at their fights, you still know like every fight that they get out of is just like they know it could be their last. And I feel like that was a really good way. Like they showed that more so in the show than in the game, because in the game, obviously Joel's back's to you, so you can't really know how he's feeling and talking and shit like that. He's not much of a talker anyways. And yeah, there's those optional conversations you can try to interact with after fights and stuff like that, but you can miss those easily. But in the show, like they portray that very well, that like, man, they were really in a fight, even though there's only like 3 of them, 3 enemies, but that's all it takes. That's all it takes.
When you come in the game, when there's more than 2 clickers, like you're like, fuck. So
and that's true. Yeah, in the game, you can have a whole group of guys you got to take out, either stealth or firearms. If there's more than 1 clicker in that group,
it's like,
it's just
bitch.
Damn it. Because that their heightened sense of hearing, and you can even stealth take out someone, but if you're too close to a clicker, especially on the harder difficulties, they'll hear you, and it's like, are you fucking kidding me? So yeah, it's I'm interested to see other parts, like if they do another hotel, like they did in the game, and if they do the generator section, this show's about to be a horror show for a bit if they do the generator bit, because that's a terrifying section of the game. Like
the
full stop.
Subway
that
section,
Subway wasn't that scary.
I don't know. You sure had problems with it.
Not out of fear. It's just out of because it was hard as hell.
So let's real quick, because we kind of skipped over this, but the very first part of the episode, again, kind of like the first part of the first episode, they did brand new, just kind of lore stuff. They brought us to Jakarta, where they're in this universe where the whole thing started. Like, how do you think? How did you like all of that? Kind of like,
that's how what. Oh, that's what they were. I didn't know they were implying that it started there.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess that's to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Cool. I no problem with it. I mean, I thought they were just. I didn't actually process all of that scene. I thought it was just more like world building of like how it was affecting other parts of the world before all the shit went down.
It's definitely.
Damn.
Yeah.
Definitely had a small brain moment there. Well, now that I understand that, good. I have no problems with it.
Well, I guess that
it's got to be somewhere.
I'll talk a little bit more about it. I felt that it was really, again, more good, just deepening of the world and making it feel like a world, which you need a little bit more of in a show than a video game. Like the way the Doctor reacts to the realization that like the world's fucked, like the way that the general's like, how do we stop him? If there's no vaccine, if there's no medicine, how do we stop him? And she just like bomb the city and everyone in it, and just like that realization that like that's what would happen. Like they just fucking bomb everything. And then she's just like, can someone take me back to my family? And she's just gonna sit this out and, maybe get bombed, maybe get eaten by, fungus people. I thought that was really cool. It looks like this next episode, like I said, we're gonna get Bill and Frank, and we're gonna get again more stuff that we don't get in the game. It looks like we're gonna get how like maybe Joel and Tess's like first interaction with Bill and Frank. We're gonna get to see how Bill met Frank, and their relationship. Uh, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to more expanding of the world, more in depth look at the characters that we know from the game. I think it's gonna be awesome. So I'm really looking forward to the next episode.
The one thing I will add with the one thing I can say about the opening scene, in about the origins of the fungus is that it also does a good job of giving more background into the fungus itself. Because like in the game, we really have anything. We just know it was a fungus. It destroyed the fucking world. It couldn't be stopped. It still can't be stopped, and that's it. That's all we really have. Not even most of the artifacts you can find in the game really go into the disease itself. Just kind of more go into like how people dealt with it, stuff like that. So this and if they do more of it, great. It helps give more background on the fungus itself and why it was able to do what it did. So I'm all for that. And as far as Bill and Frank, I'm very interested to see how they tell that story, because when Tess told Joel to take Ellie there, she said Bill and Frank. So as far as they're concerned, Frank is still there. And whereas in the game, obviously that's not the case. So I'm wondering to see how that plays
don't
out.
you find out though? Like during the game, don't you find Frank and then tell
You
Bill?
do, but like it doesn't seem to be the way it's just told is like they had a falling out at some point, but we don't know how long ago.
Yeah.
We don't know, and so I'm wondering if Joel and Ellie find if they're both there. I'm just curious to see
Yeah.
what might get changed and what stays the same and whatever. Because based off that preview they showed, I don't know what's going on. So I'm very curious to see how that whole thing playing out. And I do hope they don't rush, because like that was a whole chapter. Bill's town was a whole chapter. It's a long chapter. So I hope they don't rush it. Hope they definitely, especially if they are adding in all this background story to it. Hope they don't rush it. Hope they give it the equivalent amount of time in the show that it did in the game, or like the comparable amount of time. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. But anyway, so real quick rating, as a show or a general episode, and then as an adaptation.
Yeah, as a show, this, because I don't know how the show is going to continue forward from here, I will give this one as a show a 9, because I'm hoping like it continues and maybe even gets better, but it's pretty much a 10. Like the only reason I give it a 9 is just because like it could get even better. So I'm like the optimistic, just one, just in case I need to rate those higher. But yeah, it's definitely a 9, 9.5, 10, like somewhere in that range. But officially, I'll give it a 9. Adaptation, just because they did change stuff, and I think we have to, if we're splitting the two, then adaptation I would probably give it again like an 8, just because they did change stuff, but then they did have so much other good one for one details, especially like again the clickers being the clickers from the game, like the one for one shots with Tess and Joel during her reveal. Um, if it wasn't for the fact that they changed something, again, good changes. If they hadn't changed it, it probably would have been a 10 for me for this section. But they did do a couple changes, so I'll give them an 8.
For me, as a show, I'll give this episode will be an 8. I thought it did better as a general show than the first episode did, like for general audience and stuff like that. I thought it was more tense, more world building, more character development, and it's like a lot of more. We're starting to see some good interactions between Joel and Ellie, which is just a precursor for things to come. I thought general audience probably would like this episode more than the first one, so I give this an 8. Adaptation, I know they changed things, but it was so good changes, and honestly, from the museum on, the episode is just wonderful. I give it a 9. This one was a 9 for me. I know I was kind of in the
I
fence between
agree with
eight.
that
Between,
too.
I
So
was on the fence on the first one between an 8 and a 9. So I give like an 8.5, I guess. But this one was a 9. Like, and that's mainly backed on how good that museum bit was. And then Tessa's performance in the Capitol building. It was phenomenal. Everything like that whole the second half of that whole episode was just great. I was very happy. Yes, maybe some things were changed. Plot elements were slightly tweaked to make it make more sense. Like with the collapsing of the ceiling in the museum, that was done a bit differently. They weren't separated. Don't care. It was fine because they end up being separated in a different way, kind of. Anyways, obviously with the Capitol building wasn't Fedra. It was infected, but it was all pulled off just fantastically. Everything still made sense in the context of the story. I came out really happy. Just
yeah,
very. I have been so impressed with how they have remixed or changed things and still made it make so much sense that like I'm like, yeah, I can believe this other way of telling the story. It makes so much sense. So
yeah, yeah.
very happy,
Fucking,
very happy.
fucking listen up, anyone who tries to do a video game adaptation. Like, this is fucking how you do this shit. Like, so far,
It's got to be because they didn't have the lead director of whatever the game was as involved as Neil Druckmann has been involved with this show.
yeah,
That's the only thing I can think of is that the people involved with the games have not been at this deeply involved. They probably were just like an overseer or like just like a check, like, oh yeah, I guess that's all right. That might be all right. I think Neil was literally like they probably had to pass so many things past this guy. And if he didn't give a seal of approval, they didn't run it. Like it's gotta
it's
be. That's the
been
only thing I could
great.
think of.
I'm super looking forward to the rest of this.
So me too. I'm excited. I'm actually kind of now a bit excited. Um, we'll see how things go.
Yeah.
But that is this week's episode of the podcast. Also, this week's review of the second episode of The Last of Us show.
Yeah. So
We'll be
leave your
back.
ratings down in the comments below. Let us
Yes,
know how you
as a
liked the
show
second episode.
and adaptation. Again, we don't know how many episodes are going to be because nobody seems to know. But we'll review all of them for you guys here if you're interested. But yeah, comment below, like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, do all that fun stuff. We'll see you guys next week with the next episode, and y'all take care. Bye.